The main reason, my inspiration of being here is really helping individuals. I see a lot of individuals that want to open up their own business, or they have their own business and they want to learn. And I think they look at our business, and we've scaled now. We have 20 locations in 17 of it is in Southern California, and we've expanded now to Las Vegas. We have 2, one in Spring Mountain and the other one in the Venetian Hotel. And then we've now gone to San Jose in our Vietnamese community over there in Berryessa, and that's done very well. And recently, within a month ago, we opened up in Houston. And there's a Vietnamese community over there, so we've been, just following where our Vietnamese communities have really been, and they've been showing a lot of support. So everything's working really well, and we're very happy to be able to serve our product in these different areas. But I think just going back, as I share our story, what I want to be able to do is share it in a way where our lessons, what we've learned through our journey, so that maybe it can give you some clarity, and you can take some of those lessons that we've learned and not make the same mistakes, or learn from that so you can actually move faster forward too. So a question that I get often is like, why did you get into business? Self-employment, because I heard that your family actually worked for corporations. Like I worked at the bank, at Bank of America for almost a decade. I had a very stable position. Parents were very happy and proud of what I was doing. So why did you take that leap to do that? And the same goes for my older brother. My oldest brother is Nguyen. He's an engineer in networking, and he's a director at a hospital, Edinger Medical Group. He's been there for over 20 years. And then my other brother is a software and designer, and Nguyen, we call him Q. He was doing that for 10 years. And then my youngest brother is a lawyer, right? So we had really no culinary background whatsoever. So why do we basically not only go entrepreneur, but then get into a food and beverage type of business, right? Because it's a very difficult line of business. So, to answer that question, we didn't get into it because we wanted to be entrepreneurs. We actually wanted to work together, right? And because we grew up together, I think reflecting on that time, we had the most fun, and we were truly happiest. I think the success that we enjoyed working at business, I think that was great, but we were spending 6 days a week, 10 hours a day at work. And then that one day in the weekend with family, and we felt like something was off. So we're like, why don't we try to start something together that we all would love? And then we spend maybe 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, and then weekend we can spend together again, right? So I think that's the why. So it wasn't because we wanted more money, we wanted anything that. So, and then we were in our mid-30s, so we started later versus young entrepreneurs today, right out of college, or some of you that's here, you want to get into it right away. We had a lot of failures. We tried it in the past. We tried to do things together while we were still in school. So it doesn't, if it almost appears that success came easy to us, I think that's not true. And I want to be able to share that with you. Number one, I don't know if anyone here knows, but we've actually had quite a few failures growing up, trying businesses because we were naive and we didn't understand what business is really all about. So growing up, when we were in high school, during the initial stages of the internet boom, right? Just when it started in 1994 and it grew after that, we opened up a business, or we tried to. My brother Q, he was a software programmer, so he wanted to do something like Amazon, but for cars and car parts back then, right? Before Amazon, before mobile orders. So that was more of like a timing play, right? When you're too ahead of the curve, you're thinking too far off. So we learned a big lesson that you can't think too far off. You have to also understand what the trends are, what's the need and the value of today. So we failed at that, and we put all of our energy into. We tried it while we were going to school. The other mistake or failure that we did was we got into a business where we were doing consulting. So my brother was in network engineer, and my other was in software. So I would be the one that goes out and say, hey, we can consult right after that and maybe help businesses from a technology. But I didn't have any experience working anywhere, but going, and I think when I was 18, I probably looked like I was 12, right, going around and trying to sell a software or maybe these solutions to companies. And they looked at us and they're like, you don't have any experience. and you look like you're 12, so maybe we'll try you when you're 10 years older, right? So that didn't work out. So I share that story so you guys, that starting off doesn't feel as though like, hey, everything that we do or business is easy, because it's really not. And we actually had to go through all these failures to learn. And today, I think when I think about business, business is very complex, and there's a reason why not a lot of people get into business, because I don't think they really understand the rules of business. When I think of business today, what I understand is that you need to have a person that understands real estate, right? So, and what is real estate, and what is marketing, right? That is just, if you have a product or services, how do you get your product or service to your consumers? So you have to understand, real estate, or marketing. So that's what I think today. So when we first start off, we didn't do any real estate or a strategy, or did we do marketing? But here's the why behind that. Because we got into this business where it was very competitive. It wasn't as though we created coffee, or we created tea, or milk tea, or boba. I think we were the latest in the game, and it was very competitive. So if here in Little Saigon, like every corner, you probably have 12 businesses that serve that. So when we came in 7 years ago, it already existed. So we had to create something that didn't exist. And what that was actually we have this palette where we thought, like for example, Vietnamese coffee, café soda, was too concentrated, đậm quá, right? So for us, we were like, hey, we need to make it so that it hits a broader audience. And it has to go beyond just the Vietnamese community. We need to introduce the beverages we love to a bigger audience. So that's why when you drink, and I remember having my parents try like our drink, and it was the Vietnamese house coffee. She was like, you need to make it more like, concentrated. It doesn't taste like the Vietnamese coffee. And we would, pass it on to the older generation, like, this is not gonna work, right? Because this doesn't taste like anything like Vietnamese coffee. And they were right, but that wasn't our audience, right? And the same goes for our other drinks, and like our mung bean, which is đậu xanh lá dứa. We would introduce that to my parents. My parents like, this doesn't taste anything like, how we would make it in Vietnam or Southeast Asia. But we also knew that if you made that and you presented to a Caucasian person, they were like, I can't drink this. So we had to understand, and because we had the benefit of being able to be raised as Vietnamese Americans, we understood the palates of an American culture. And I think that was our advantage, and we had to also stick to our gut and to understand that. But that was our theory and test. And in theory, it's like, well, I think if we actually were to reformulate it so that it could be palatable for a bigger audience, we might be able to do something that's different and innovative. So instead of listening to everybody that had opinions, I think we took surveys. So we had our parents, our first generation, try it, and so we understood what they liked and what they didn't like, and we had our friends and family and the younger generation try it. So we actually had to do our own survey, and from there we had an idea. But this is a theory. So when we open up our location, anyone remember where we opened our first location? Raise your hands. Yes, yes. No, not Trust and Brookhurst. No. Over there, yes. Brookhurst and Westminster, yeah. And that location, when I show that location to, now that we have 20 locations, everyone looks at it, it's like, why'd you choose that location? Because it doesn't look anything like our second, third, or so on, because now most of our locations are prominent in the main cross corners, and they're beautiful. We put a lot of money in cosmetics. It's like, why did we do that? Well, anyone that's been here, that lives in this community, knows that, that location is next to two iconic businesses. Hiến Khánh, yes. Hiến Khánh, that is iconic. 30 years, right? They probably have in the weekend 1,000 customers coming in and out. What's the other business that's next to her? Maybe, right? It's a noodle place. They probably have 500 customers a day. So we were thinking, well, instead of paying for marketing and real estate And that location is not prime, but we knew that there was traffic because we're locals. That if we put our location right in the middle, people might kind of pop their head in and like, what is this 7Leaves? And they'll give us a try without paying for an expensive. And you know, when you don't know anything, and we knew that we didn't know if this would actually hit the community and they would embrace it. So that's why, like, being honest with ourselves to say, hey, let's not put all of our money and put all of our eggs and baskets into this, but let's test it. So when you look at our POS system, you look at the store, it's not the greatest, but it was a testing ground. But it was one of the best decisions we've ever made. So I think for anyone that's getting into business, you have to think, number one, you know, if you don't have the best real estate, you know, why are you getting into this location? And if you have a product that you think that it's gonna, you know, maybe have an opportunity, you should try it versus trying to go. And I've seen too many young entrepreneurs, they have passion, which is great, but they borrow their parents' money, all right? And then they borrow a lot of money and they go too big. So I think you need to take steps, right? So we took baby steps, and that's why when you go to our first location, that's probably like why we chose it. And when we did open, people started to come in, and it was organically forming, and it got very busy. So I think we became innovative because we brought something that didn't exist in our community. We changed the way the drinks tasted, but also we brought into a beverage type of business customer service, right? We're like, well, how do we design the store unique? And we provide great customer service because I was in the banking, so customer service is very important. We wanted to make sure that we train everyone, just get them to a certain point, and we felt good about that. And it happened. And for 1 year, the line started to grow. And you know that plaza, right? There's only like 20 parking spaces. There's like 4 restaurants. So people are parking in the neighborhood. So we had a problem. But what we also noticed was this. We need to expand, but where should we expand? So there was this location, and someone mentioned it was in Trask and Euclid. This location, again, when you're thinking about expanding, when we were growing, we wanted to see where we should we open up. And we looked at that, and we asked 50 of our friends and family, right, about this location. And all 50 of them says, don't take it, right? So when everybody, like your parents and your friends and everyone says, don't take something, you probably won't take it, right? And you just move on. But there was something about this location that resonated with our family and for me personally. But the one reason why they all said don't take it was that Starbucks died there, right? And we had our one location, so if Starbucks didn't make it, why would we, you know, and they call it 7Leaves, one location, why would we be able to bring a drink and beverage, coffee and tea into a place that Starbucks had left? And when they left, the whole plaza became a ghost town for 2 years. Right. Right, so that was one of the things we couldn't argue. And you know, Starbucks is it's a beloved brand, it's worldwide. Everything they do seems like it works. And it's true, and I think I just kept on circling back. And one of the things that's very unique, and not a lot of people know about this story, is that when we, you know, we had lines around the door, it was wrapped around, there was competition started to form. So next door, 85 Degrees, you guys heard of that, right? They came in, and I remember talking to my brothers, and they're like, okay, we're gonna be heavily affected because they sell coffee, tea, and they have amazing bakery. It's gonna impact our business. And they opened. And our business didn't go up or down. So we're scratching our heads like, what's going on? And then another tea place in the same plaza next door opened up. And we're like, okay, for sure it's gonna affect our business. And it didn't go up or it didn't go down. And we're like, okay, something's going on. It's very strange. And then Starbucks on the corner of Brookers and Westminster took over an old Burger King, did a drive-through, beautiful location. And they opened up. And our business didn't go up or down, right? So now we're very confused. So I kind of threw out a theory. And the theory, you know, and everything is in hindsight. So my theory is like, this glass it might be full, and there is an overflow, right? So like there's a capacity per location based on parking, accessibility, and how you can service your customer. And I said, maybe we have an overflow issue. Customers can't get into our stores, and because they just understand the way it is, they're just not going to go. And it doesn't matter how much business goes next to it. Maybe our overflow is so much that we don't know how much we're like underserving our community. And that's when I went back to that location. And I just said, look, I looked at the customer feedback. We did a survey. They wanted parking, right? And this location had a lot of parking. They wanted seating, so we can expand out. We can put seating. We can provide that. They wanted to be convenient because our first location was not convenient. Getting in and out is horrible, right? It's a nightmare. And we witnessed plenty. I think getting cars hitting each other was actually, at the first few times, I was shocked, and then it became a norm, right? Because it's so hard to get in and out of that place. So we wanted all those, and our customers wanted that. And I looked at this location, and it hit everything our customers wanted. So in my mind, it's like, well, if we have an overflow, if it's true in theory, and if we can serve all this to the community, they should theoretically come. So we went against everyone, right? Everyone's suggestion, and we took the lease, and we opened up our store. And what happened next? You guys probably know now because you've been there. But what we did in that first store, and almost on day one, it doubled our first store overnight. So it also shows that, even though everyone has an opinion, but I think the lesson that we learn is, anything that we do, does it provide value? Value to really who? To your community. And I think if you can really understand that concept, and I think that was the biggest lesson for us, is that value is so important in anything that we do. And I think that's business. What is really business? It's providing a product or service that brings value to a community. And if we can make it so, besides our drinks, it's good. But if we can make it convenient for our customers, that's value. If you can provide seating for your customer, that's value. So I don't know if a lot of people know, besides Wi-Fi, we provide a printer, right? So that students can come in and they can print for free. Now, this is on TV, so that makes me more nervous because people are like, hey, I didn't know that, and we don't want to market that. And we've never done that, so the idea was just to keep it kind of low-key so that if you're a local there, you can enjoy it. But we don't want to be a Kinko's, right? So our teammates like, don't market this, right? We don't want to replace paper and toner all the time because we're busy enough. But the idea is that if you can really think for your community, your teammates, and bring value in anything you do, then what happens is that they'll start coming and they'll tell everybody. And I think we took that as our philosophy, right? And anyone that's getting into business, and if you're thinking, I want to get into business because I want life to be easier, I want to make a lot of money, don't get into business, right? Because being in business and being an entrepreneur is about solving problems. Now, what I mean by that also is this, is that you can solve small problems, right? If you go to work right now and someone needs to cover a shift and you covered their shift, you're going to get compensated for working that shift and maybe a pat on the shoulder. That's a small problem you just solved for somebody. But if you solve a big problem, like for example, Amazon, they solve deliveries online. They get compensated pretty well, right? For solving that big problem for the world. So I think entrepreneurship is kind of like that. If you can think of problems that exist today, if you solve small problems, you get compensated. So if you have a business that's small, then you'll get compensated that way. But if you think bigger a little bit and you solve world problems, you're going to get, compensated in a very big way. But problems do not end with entrepreneurship. We have more problems now than we've ever. So everyone's like, you guys are probably just having a great time, right? That's not true. But we've had to solve a lot of issues like expanding now. So what we've learned, and we're still learning, we're Vietnamese in this little Saigon community. Being Vietnamese, we always wanted to serve our communities, and we thought that was the extent of it because our palate was Vietnamese American. And if we can serve it, we'd be happy. But then what we started to do is we wanted to expand out to test if we can serve other communities. So we kept to the Asian umbrella. And it turns out that there are 60 different Asian demographics or classifications. Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, right? Filipinos. Indian is Asian too, right? So it goes on and on. So we started to open up at Cyprus, which is a Japanese Korean community. We served that community. They loved us. We went to Irvine, which is Taiwanese and Chinese, and they loved us over there. We opened up in Artesia, and I don't know if you guys ever been to Artesia. It's a very small city that is supposed to be the most diverse city in the country because it's only like Mile Square Park size, but they have everybody in there. That's our most busiest store because it's the most diverse, right? It has all Asian subclasses. So when we started to just test and see where our reach can be, so we feel very confident that the Asian community really embraces our drinks. And what we've also discovered now is that the Hispanic community loves our drinks, right? They love our coffee, right? And they drink it, and it's that one drink they drink one time, and they're back tomorrow and the next day. And they come and they tell their family because the Hispanic community, they're family oriented. So when one person loves it, the whole family loves it, and it spreads, right? So we opened up in Anaheim, and that's 80% Hispanic, and it's doing very well. At the end of this month, we'll be opening up in Downey, which is the biggest test we've ever done because it's only 2% Asian demographics, and the rest is Cuban and Hispanic. So that's kind of like, that's a big test. In theory, I think we should do well, but we won't know until the store opens. So now what our next, the next problems that we're facing is, well, we have this community in Southern California that we know we can do well, and we're growing. We're growing about one store a month right now. We have also did this with technology, and those that know technology and know real estate, well, if you know your customers, you can do this right now. You can say, well, I do well in this subcategories, this age and this demographic. You can populate it. We use this tool called ISRI, right? And it's a real estate census tool, and it gives you the data, and you can basically put a classification in the U.S. where are these categories, demographics you're looking for, and it'll populate all across the country. And for us, we put these categories, saying we want this density, we want this classification, and it'll pop over. So we know that there's 20 different big, large communities in the U.S. that we should expand to next. So taking that with technology, we also understood that we started to use social media. Anyone that use social media for their business? Raise your hands. Quite a few. Now, if you're not in social media, you should be, because it's a tool that instead of in the past, you know how when you open up your business, you go in the newspaper and you put a flyer, or you have someone put out your coupons on their cars, and that gets annoying. But now you can kind of just create a video or an ad and then target exactly your customer profile. And they will all populate exactly within a mile, 2 miles, or 5 miles, wherever you're choosing. So we've tested that within our stores, and it works. Now, within these stores, that's why when we open up in Houston, that's thousands of miles away from here. We're able to just tell them when we're opening, and then lines form. And we use this model, and it works beautifully. So as we're testing and testing this theory, so everything, I always say theory until we open it up. We know we can do it. So far, where we are is that we know West Coast. There are areas that we're opening up in Washington, Oregon, San Francisco, San Jose, Sacramento. Next is Arizona. But then in the central is Texas, right? Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. Then we're going to go East Coast in our next phase. So we know the warmer clients like us, the climate, and the central state, because Texas can get really hot. But then now we're going to go to the East Coast. So I know that there are some friends here that are from Boston and New York. We're looking to go to all these major states. If you're wondering which areas, New York, New Jersey, Virginia, Florida, we're going to test it out. Atlanta for sure. We're going to test out the market. But the key is this: we're not doing it ourselves. Our next expansion, and for our family, we feel as though Southern California for us is more than enough, right? We can barely keep up, and we're just happy with what we have. And what we realized before we even partnered with anyone, we've got hundreds of inquiries on a weekly basis, maybe thousands, right, that want to expand our brand. So, we've been going back and forth and thinking about how we can partner up. with groups that are very similar. So we did an area development model for those that are interested, that are in this area that's out there. And we were looking for individuals that love our product, our brand, and our culture. And they want to expand it. So we're working with those groups to expand our brand and sharing. And what we found about that is that it's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs that they're not good at creating something new, but they're good about, expanding something they love, and they'll put the heart and soul into it and their capital, and they'll work with, amazing folks here from SBA, amazing folks from our insurance. We have friends, Ballet from State Farm, right? We have Jing Ngọc Định. She'll take care of your financing needs at her bank. I think she'll like to hear that. And, and I think being able to work with local city members, I think it's so important for us. Our parents told us, don't work with the government. Don't tell them what you're doing, right? And it's, like where we came from, we left Vietnam, so we were afraid of government. So they would tell us that. And then, when we started to talk to the mayor, we have our Garden Grove mayor, Steve Jones, right? He's such an amazing guy, and he's so supportive of our business. And then we met Lisa Kim, which is here today, here to support us. We learned that when you work with your city and you do something great, they will support you. Lisa's helped us with so many opportunities outside of Garden Grove. It's been an amazing experience, and I think whoever we work with, we share that, and we tell them you have to work closely with your local city leaders, because they want businesses to thrive. They want good business. They want businesses that focus on community and how you can properly serve that. So that's what we've learned to where we are. We're still learning, and the hard part of expanding. This is now we talk about business 101. That means, the basics of business. So for those that already have businesses that want a little, where we are today, scaling is actually very hard, because there's the logistics side of things. How do you get your product quality, and how do you get it to a different state? When we first started in Little Saigon, we used to go to the supermarket, and all, like we have, 7 of us, we'll scatter just to get, we'll run out of ice. It was just not organized, and we had to figure all that out. But now when we're serving different states, it's very difficult, right? And how do you do that? So we've been able to service up to Texas. Now we're trying to figure out logistics for East Coast. Now, our game plan in our next phase is, if it all works and East Coast is successful, I think we would be, and our goal is to just make sure that our culture is consistent and we become a beloved brand like In-N-Out. I think that's our compass. So we want to learn from In-N-Out. And if we do everything right, if we can get that branding, I think the next step will be internationally and finding international partners. And I just got back from Japan, and I never thought that Japan would be our biggest market, but now I think it might be one of our biggest markets, because it's 120 million people that have disposable income, and they love our drinks, because we source our matcha from there, and they're drinking boba, they're getting into coffee. Starbucks is in every corner. So I think there's a huge market opportunity as we scale and partner up with groups over there. So that's where we are, and hopefully, within our story, it kind of gives you a little bit insight on what and why we do the things we do and where we are. But I'd like to have an opportunity to open up if you guys have any Q&A. Thank you. We have a question in the back.
Sonny, you're talking about expanding and looking at other states. Have you had them approach you offering incentives to come into the state? Rigs, things like that.
Oh, you mean like from the state incentive-wise? Yeah. No, we haven't worked with any state members. Maybe we should. Definitely love to talk to you about that. And what we do is we kind of pass that on to our partners, especially the ones that like in Houston. So those are the folks that will be able to work directly with the city folks, and that's where we're encouraging them to get those incentives. And one of the things for our partners that they really loved, and it's one of those kickers, is that for SBA, I didn't know this before when we first started opening, but because we've started to grow and they understand our business model. We won SBA Family Business of the Year 2 years ago. Anyone that works with us automatically qualifies for it in that territory. Granted, you have to be credit worthy as well. But on a business standpoint, they get that. So I think that's a pretty neat kicker. Anyone else? All right, everyone's a shy group. I think we're good. We got one.
Okay. Could you understand Vietnamese?
A little bit.
Thứ nhất là chúc mừng gia đình của em đã làm một cái điều mà rất hãnh diện cho cộng đồng. 7Leaves nó là một cái model mà phải nói là first Vietnamese family mà successful. Mà con gái của anh cũng là nhân viên của em. Và con gái của anh 19 tuổi. Cái tiệm đầu tiên của em chính là anh dẫn nó vào cho nó uống. Nó không biết là cái gì cả. Và sau đó là everything else is history. So, giống như anh nói, bây giờ nó spend time với lại cái tiệm của em nhiều hơn nó spend time ở nhà nữa. Và tất cả bạn bè nó đều tới đó hết. That's what prompted me to look at 7Leaves closer. At first, I just love the drinks. And like you say, I love the culture. Cái why của tụi em rất là quan trọng. Là thay vì mỗi người thành công một vị trí, thì phải nói là cảm ơn bố mẹ. Bố mẹ đã dạy cho các anh em như thế nào mà phải là tụi em nhìn được cái thành công riêng nhưng mà không có được cái giá trị của gia đình. Cho nên tụi em đã chụm lại với nhau để mà anh em có thêm cái thời gian. Cho nên anh nghĩ cái thông điệp đó gửi gắm tới tất cả gia đình Việt Nam nó rất quan trọng. Bây giờ trước nhất thì giống như anh nói đó, mới nãy có chia sẻ anh ở Boston, thời gian New York. Anh nghĩ cái dynamite của tụi em sẽ là Houston, Dallas, những cái khu vực nào mà nóng, Phoenix, Arizona, thì anh nghĩ là tụi em sẽ overtake anything that your competitors. Anh follow em tới nỗi mà khi em về cái location ở đường Trash, anh mới nói là see how they're gonna make this. So ở ngoài trước em là cái tiệm Vapor, đúng không? Trong cái khu đó có Starbucks, xong nó đến Starbucks nó đi tới đâu nó mang cái tên là Killer. Nó đi tới đâu nó giết người ta, nhưng mà nó vào đó không giết được em. Thì anh nói là these guys will never die if they go up against Starbucks and they stood tall. No one can. So, từ đó về sau bây giờ câu hỏi của anh em là khi mình expand lớn quá, chẳng hạn như cái công ty như hồi xưa Blockbuster, their problem was is they expand so fast for their own good. So most of the people who walk into Blockbuster, they can't find the movie they were looking for, and that was the number one problem with Blockbuster, right? So bây giờ tụi em expand lớn quá như vậy thì cái consistency nó như thế nào? Chẳng hạn như Southern California thì em đã nói rồi, cái logistics, you get everything down pat, right? But once you expand, how do you get that consistency of 7Leaves to provide cái quality and cái value added? Thì anh nghĩ cái đó nó sẽ determine cái successful story của 7Leaves going forward. Especially now you're taking on business partner from Japan, right? So cái hồi xưa giờ chúng ta thấy McDonald's cái điều đặn là ở bất cứ tiệm nào đồ ăn cũng giống nhau hết. Cái công thức của họ thì anh nghĩ là anh muốn em chia sẻ cái điều đó là tụi em đã work được cái điều mà để nó đưa tới cái sự điều đặn của chất lượng của 7Leaves nếu mà chúng ta bành trướng nhanh quá mà to như vậy.
All right. Thank you, An, for asking that question. I'll respond in English because we have some English folks here as well. But the question is in regards to drink consistency as we expand, right? How do we prevent inconsistency from happening? And I think that's a concern for all of our family members. And that's why actually we haven't expanded as fast as we could have. And that's the truth. And I'll share a story. This is three years ago. We had a group from Korea, South Korea, approach us. So in South Korea, soccer, right, they call it football, is the basketball or the football of America. And they had these celebrities fly in, and there was a model that came in, and the brand and the company that brought in Levi's jeans to South Korea, they all came as a group. It was intimidating. We only had 5 stores. They came and they said, we have 200 locations right now in South Korea, and we'd like to convert them all to 7Leaves, right? When you get presented something like that 3-4 years ago, everyone's like, we totally have to do this, right? It's too good not to do. And if they fail in South Korea, in the US, people won't even know, right? So it wouldn't matter. We just get a big lump sum and we do that. If we had moved too fast and we had taken that deal, we would have failed because we didn't even figure out logistics, and we thought about how we would even do that. We didn't even know how to expand all the way to San Diego for ourselves. So how would we do that for Korea? So going back and forth and thinking about it for 2 months, we turned it down. We said no. And they were shocked because there's a lot of money on the table. So we're okay saying no. I think that's the hardest part with success, is actually not saying yes. It's actually saying no for opportunities like that. And that was one of many. And when you have, even from the day one when we opened 7 years ago, I don't think there was a day where we didn't get inquiries about expansion or someone wanting to give us money. Because it wasn't about that. It was about doing things right. And I think our model of, anyone that's interested, in order to get our franchise or to actually be a partner with us, is actually not easy at all. 99% of people that have sent us email doesn't qualify. Actually might even be 100%, right? Because the only groups that we've worked with, we actually had to find them. Because there is a DNA that we're looking for, someone that loves our product, that's passionate about our culture. And I didn't want to go into culture because culture is a very difficult thing to teach, right? We're still learning how to harness the culture. And I don't think you think about companies that exist today, how many have cultures that you really love, right? You can name a handful. In-N-Out is one of them, right? There's plenty of burger places, but how many In-N-Outs can you name? There's only one In-N-Out, in my opinion. And so I think it's very difficult. And we look at, our compass would be to become the In-N-Out of drinks, to be able to have, quality products, simple menu, right? Value-based, right? They can charge a lot more than they charge, but they chose not to because they wanted to give to the community, and we respect that. And we want that for our community as well. And we always think about ways to give back. So I think those are the things that's hardest. So when we are now looking for individuals or groups that have expertise, that's very hard, and they have to love our brand. And these are successful folks already, so our groups and partners that we have found and we formulated, they have to believe in all those things. And also, we also have to be able to properly source our products so that there's a consistency. So all those things we've kind of put a lot of thought into before we said yes to expanding. And then the other question, I think, in regards to Blockbuster, how they came out. I actually think that Blockbuster's biggest mistake was that they were their ego got too big. Because there was a company that approached them and said, you need to buy us out, or you need to invest in us. And that was called Netflix, right? And they said, nobody's going to order movies online, right, and watch movies. That's crazy, right? People just go into stores. And you look at the valuation, what Netflix is today. So I think being able to make sure that you're aware of change and not be too, you have to have humility. You have to be humble to always be open to what is new and not always go with what one person says. You have to listen. And I think for us, we're trying to make sure that we always put our ears to the ground. We're here listening to our customers. What is it that they want? How do they want their products be served to them? And we want to make sure we serve them. If not, what value do we bring to the community or to our customers? So thank you for the question.